I finished the Magnolia Parks universe last night and I simply cannot get over it. So we're going to do a review and a bit of a deep dive into the series. This is going to be part 1 spoiler free and then part 2 not spoiler free. So if you haven't read this series yet, which I strongly suggest that you do, watch the first half of this video because I'm going to explain the best way to read the series and get the most emotional impact out of it. And then pause, go read the series, binge it, then come back to this video for part 2 and let's discuss the books. Parks, if you haven't heard of it before or if you haven't seen anything about it, it is a contemporary romance series. It's set in London and it's based on like London high society, so like really rich people basically, and it follows like a bit of a group of friends. I won't go into it too much because I think it is best to go into this series as blind as possible, but think fashion, heartbreak and yearning. It's basically got everything you would ever need in a drama, all in a book series. If you're from the UK and if you've ever watched Made in Chelsea, it's that kind of vibe, but it's a little bit more interesting. So the series is kind of split into two. You've got Magnolia Parks books and you've got Daisy Hates books. So these are kind of part of the same friendship group. They kind of link up a little bit. These first 2 books are set in the same timeline. They do overlap a little bit. So how to read this series to get the most emotional impact is read the first 2 books standalone. So read Magnolia Parks, then go into Daisy Hates. They do have some scenes where they will overlap a little bit. So in this book, you will kind of get a different perspective of a couple of things that happen in this book. You need to go into these books purely for the vibes, okay? The vibes and the vibes only. A little bit of drama, a little bit of gossip, you know? These are not setting the tone for the series, but they're setting the scene. A lot of people read Magnolia Parks and then give up with the series, but don't do that, okay? You need to read Daisy Hates as well before you decide if the series is for you or not, because a lot of people actually prefer Daisy's part of the series. So you need to give her a chance as well, because you might find that you just love Daisy more than Magnolia, and that's okay. After that, you then have Magnolia Parks The Long Way Home and Daisy Hates The Great Undoing. I actually suggest that you tandem read these 2 books because they do follow the same timeline. So a lot of the things that happen in this book, if you don't do the tandem read, they're going to be like, it's going to be a shock. There's a lot of plot twists that happen in this book, which is why I think you should persevere after book 1. There's going to be a lot of things that happen here. You're going to get a lot of shock factor, but if you don't do the tandem read, you're going to get all of the shock factor in this book, then go back in time in this book and redo the series again, but from different perspective. For the most emotional impact and to get the most out of the series, I actually think you need to tandem read these. I just got a chapter, but like, you know that like little card that says like what chapters to read in what order? I just got that off TikTok and then I literally just read it on my Kindle, so I just tabbed. Be careful because I actually ruined one of the big shocks for myself because I read this chapter too early. But it's okay because it was still like, what the hell? But yeah, I think if you want to get the most emotional impact out of the series, if you want to be heartbroken times 10, you need to tandem read these. In this book, you get a little bit of reasoning behind what happens in this book, and it starts to make more sense and you start to understand it a little bit more. So if you've read this book and you didn't like what this was about, because I know it's kind of like a hard no for some people, carry on with the series and give it a chance, because I do believe in this book you might understand the reasonings behind it a little bit more and it might make a little bit more sense and it will soften the blow. You get a bit more of a deeper dive into the characters in these 2 books. So I do think that if you're going to read the series, these ones will probably be your favourite. For me, this book was my favourite in the entire series because it was just incredible and I cried so many times. Into the Dark is the last book that is currently out in the series so far. I do believe Jessa has said she is going to write 2 more books, but they're both going to be Daisy Hates book. So that's going to be quite interesting. I don't really know how that's going to work, but yeah, I'm quite looking forward to that coming out because there are things that I need answered. For this book, it is very emotionally charged. Like, there is a lot that goes on. She's chunky, she's huge, it's 700 pages. It's not going to feel like 700 pages. It's going to feel like 2 pages and you're going to want so much more. Genuinely, before you read this, I would suggest checking some of the trigger warnings because it is quite heavy and it is very sad and you're probably going to cry, but then that's what makes it so good. This series for me is an absolute 10 out of 10. Like, I cannot fault it. I absolutely loved it so much. Like, it is so incredible, so worth reading. Jessa's writing style is amazing. It's so poetic. I actually went to the works today to buy the new covers of these books because it's so poetic that I actually want to annotate. But the original covers are so gorgeous that I don't want to ruin these books. So I bought the new covers just so I can annotate them. These ones, by the way, just for reference, big size difference. This is the original and this is the new. So yeah, I mean, I'm collecting both because I just love the series so much. But yeah, I'm gonna actually annotate it because it was so beautiful and there are so many quotes that I just want to remember for the rest of my life. So I'm actually going to go through all of the new covers and go through and highlight all of my favourite scenes. I'm probably not going to do it just yet because I literally finished it yesterday, but at some point I am going to pick up the highlighters and go through and annotate these books because I have never read anything so beautiful in my life. The character development that we see from book 1 into the end is honestly incredible. Like, it is probably one of the most best redemption arc I have ever seen in my entire life. Like, it is honestly so good, and that is why you need to stick with it. If you didn't like book 1, you need to give it a fair go because it's all gonna get explained and you're gonna be like, okay, I can kind of see why that happened now. Maybe I don't agree, but I can see the reasoning behind that, like what happens. It's gonna make so much sense. But the way that Jessa has written the characters and the way that you can literally see them develop throughout the series, 10 out of 10, can't fault it. I'd really recommend reading this series if you're more of a character driven than a plot driven person, or if you don't mind that kind of style of series, because I would say it's definitely more of a character driven series than a plot one. That doesn't mean to say that the plot isn't good, because it is, especially in a Daisy Hates book. I feel like that's probably why so many people prefer that story, because there's a little bit more plot to it. But I absolutely love it. I love a character-driven series. There's something about it that I just absolutely adore. I don't know what it is, but I just love it. I mean, maybe this is a bit biased because I loved it so much. 10 out of 10 series, honestly, for sure. Okay, now I'm gonna go into the spoiler section of this video. So if you've not read this series yet, please go away, read the books, and then come back and talk to me in the comments about what you think, because I need to know. So yeah, just to reiterate, this is now a spoiler zone. If you haven't read it yet, please come back later. I'm just gonna go through each book and give you my thoughts and feelings about each one, because I haven't got anyone I can talk to about this yet, so you guys are my only people that I can talk to about it yet. So here we go. Book 1, Magnolia Parks. A lot of people said before I went into this that this was gonna be like Gossip Girl, and I can kind of see that. I feel like the cheating trope with Magnolia and BJ, they kind of reminded me a little bit of Chuck Bass and Blair Waldorf, but I would say that was about it in terms of like the Gossip Girl vibes for me. It really felt more like Made in Chelsea, like London high society, rich kids finding each other. For me personally, that's more of the vibe that I got. Obviously in this book we've got Magnolia Parks, and I am obsessed with her. I feel like she's a very entitled, spoiled kind of princess, but I love her. I don't know what people don't like about her. I think she's hilarious. She's so iconic. The way that she literally can look at you and tell you exactly what you're wearing, what brand, and what the name is of the product blew my mind. I used to work in fashion and I can't even do that. I mean, actually, I worked in fashion for 10 months. I don't know why I'm acting like I worked in fashion for years, but yeah. But still, I thought it was amazing. I think she's so funny. And then BJ. I know in this book he's a bit of an idiot, bit of a bad boy. You know, he cheated on Magnolia, which it did kind of put me off. I have to say, I wasn't expecting that when I went into this series. I didn't think that was what was going to happen. So I was a little bit like, I'm not sure about that one. Like, how can you come back from that? Like, seriously? That just feels like something that you could never come back from. But I'm not gonna lie, there was something about him that I actually really loved. I mean, I couldn't work out if I wanted to punch him or hug him, but probably both, because I just loved him a little bit. I don't know why. It was something about his aura. He just gives off this like cocky, confident boy, and there's something about that I just love. I did think as well that even though BJ was the one that cheated on Magnolia, they're both so toxic in this book. I mean, Magnolia literally gets fake boyfriends to make BJ jealous. I mean, how toxic is that? And all of those people that she's probably actually really hurting their feelings while she's doing that as well. Like, that is toxic. So she's also as toxic as BJ, or maybe not as toxic as him, but she's also toxic too. And then obviously we find out at the end of this book, how this book ends is we find out that BJ actually cheated on Magnolia with her best friend. I did think that was a little bit predictable, and I did predict that before we got to the end of this book. So for me, I rated it 4 stars because I was like, I kind of felt like I saw that coming, and it was a little bit predictable, but it was still really good. The way that she figured it out with the smell of her perfume. How did she get that? I so would have missed that. I genuinely don't think I would have clicked. The orange blossom. Like, she found out who he cheated on her with by the smell of her perfume. Like, that's crazy. And then we have Daisy Hates, which is book number 2. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't love this as much as I thought I was going to. I knew going into this that a lot of people preferred Daisy's stories, so I was kind of expecting to absolutely love it. And then I could tell from the back that there was gonna be something, you know, gang lord, so I was like, oh, maybe there's a little bit more depth to this plot than in book 1, and there was, but I just found Daisy very annoying. Like, I don't know what it was, I just found it insufferable in this book. And the footnotes, oh my god, I was getting so annoyed with all of the footnotes because I was reading it on my Kindle. I didn't have the physical copies back then, and also these are so huge, like, I'm not taking this to work with me, do you know what I mean? So the footnotes were just driving me crazy in her chapters, and I just, yeah, I don't know, I wasn't enjoying it as much as I wanted to. But I did love Christian. I was obsessed with him. In fact, a lot of the male characters in this book, I actually just love every single one of them. Just like everybody else as well, obviously I'm obsessed with Julian. And I did think it was very interesting, the storyline. So I think I still rated this one like 4 stars. And then we move on to The Long Way Home, which I think is actually my favourite book in the entire series because it was just so good. This is where we started to get a little bit of explanation into why BJ cheated on Magnolia, and his story with that girl, that awful girl, that was horrific to read about. I mean, like, I didn't expect that. And then I felt like once we understood what happened, I don't even want to say it because it was so horrible. Like, once we figured out like what happened to him as a child, you kind of understand why he did what he did. I mean, it's not excusable because cheating is never okay and it is not inexcusable, but I did feel so sorry for him, and I felt like he tried so hard. He made one mistake and he did try really hard to redeem it and to make it up to Magnolia, but I do just think that I was starting to feel really sorry for him in this book because Magnolia, rightfully so, just couldn't trust him. And it was so heartbreaking to watch him completely love her, know that he made a mistake and then not really know how to make up for it. And then Billy. Do I actually need to say more than just poor Billy? When I read that, I was so shocked. Like, that wasn't what I expected. Like, imagine that happening to you at 16 with no support from anyone because they don't really have great family members. I mean, BJ, I feel like his family are great and they would have supported him, but I totally understand why they didn't want to tell anyone. So I feel really sad for them. Like, that is so heartbreaking to go through that as a child. Like, I literally just don't even think, like, how do you move on from something like that so young as well? And the whole December 3rd thing. Oh, like, it now makes so much sense what they do at Dartmouth under the willow tree every December 3rd. And I just, oh, it makes me so sad. Oh, but isn't it just so lovely though that like every year they get together, no matter what state their relationship is in, they always meet at this tree on December 3rd to mourn the loss of Billy. Guys, it's so heartbreaking. I don't even think I can talk about it. I feel like in this book, because you start to get a little bit more understanding of Magnolia and BJ and you kind of figure out why they are the way they are, it suddenly makes so much sense, everything that happened in this book. And I do feel like BJ goes through such a redemption arc in this book and also in Into the Dark that you kind of understand where he's coming from. But this book is so emotional. Like, I think I cried so many times reading this, and that is why it is my favourite of the series. Oh my god. Oh my god, and then the ending, the way that this ended. Stop. I am so glad I did the tandem read for this because it was heartbreaking. Like, Bridget, I was so sure that Bridget was going to be alive, and she wasn't. Oh my god. And then we go into The Great Undoing, which is obviously Daisy hates Christian and Julian's POVs. I'm so glad I did the town and read with The Long Way Home, because I don't think, after knowing what happens in the end of that book, I could go back to the beginning and start again. Like, no, I'm so glad that everything happened at the same time, so I could like process it and understand it and see it from everyone's point of view while I was reading the book. Daisy, I still feel like I was a bit indifferent about her. I wasn't really that bothered about her in this book. My love for Christian did grow a lot more, and also Julian. I thought it was so funny as well that Magnolia completely refused to accept the fact that Julian is a gang lord, and she was like, no, he's just an artist stealer. Babe, he's an art thief. I just thought that was so classic Magnolia and so funny. But I felt so sorry for Julian in this book. Wow. The ending of this book, when Julian gets on the plane and he has to take something and be like sedated or whatever so that he doesn't run to Magnolia, can you even imagine the amount of stress he must have been in, knowing it was his fault as well, that they came after her because of him? No. And then Bridget, imagine finding out about Bridget. I mean, we obviously don't have the next Daisy's book, so we don't actually know when they got on the flight, where they went, or like what happened. And I want to know like what happened when he found out about Bridget as well, because I can imagine Julian was absolutely devastated hearing that, because that would have been the last thing he wanted. But I need to know. I need to know where they went and what happened, and like, oh my god, I just need to know everything. But I mean, this book was insane. 5 stars. And then Into the Dark is the last book. This 700-page book literally felt like nothing. I was not ready for it to be over. I kept seeing like the page count go up, and I was like, I know that I'm getting to the end of this book, and I just wasn't ready for it to be over, because obviously we don't have the next books. So I just can't believe it. This book was so sad. I was so sure that at the beginning of this book we was going to find out that Bridget is actually okay and she was fine, and like, you know, she just was unconscious or whatever, and that is not what happened, and I could not believe it. Like, I couldn't believe how sad it was. Don't know. Awful, absolutely awful. I adored Bridget as well. I thought she was such a fun, lovable side character, and I'm so gutted that she died. I can't believe it. I couldn't accept that she was dead, let alone Magnolia. Oh my god. And then that scene when Magnolia and Julian are in the car and he's asking her, like, did you ever love me? And she said yes. Tears. Oh my god, I feel upset, like, thinking about it now. Like, that was so... Poor Julian, honestly. And like, I've seen so many people say that they wish that Julian and Magnolia ended up together, but I actually don't, because if Magnolia did end up with Julian, she never would have loved him like she would have loved BJ. And Julian deserves a love like Magnolia loves BJ of his own. Like, there always would have been BJ in the back of her mind. Like, BJ was her first love. They had a baby together that they lost. Like, they have got those two have so much trauma behind them. Like, Bridget would have said they were literally trauma bonded. So she just never would have loved Julian because they don't have that history. And sure, they could have like built it up, but Julian deserves a love that would completely and utterly love him the way that he loves Magnolia. And I really hope that in the next couple of books he finds that, because he does deserve it. Like, he is a sweetheart. I'm actually really scared to read that scene from his POV, because we know it's coming in the next book for sure, and I don't know how I'm going to cope with that, to be honest. Like, it was hard reading it from Magnolia's point of view, but imagine reading it from his point of view. It's gonna be horrible. So yeah, I mean, absolute 10 out of 10 series from me, to be honest. I think that has jumped up to my favourite series in the world, replacing ACOTAR, which is a big statement for me, because ACOTAR has been my favourite series since I read it for the first time last year, and it just hits in a way that nothing I've ever read has hit before. And I think a part of that is because Jessa writes about these characters as if they're real people, and you believe that they're real. I mean, I feel like I'm going to walk down London, central London, and see Magnolia and BJ. Like, they feel like real people to me, and I think that's why it feels so special, because she's writing about very real, very heavy topics, but in a way that it's like, it's just so well done. I've never read anything like this series before. My camera is gonna die, but thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Please give it a like, and also comment below your thoughts on the Magnolia Parks series, because I would love to know what you think. See you in the next one.